October 30th, 1985 was proclaimed by Vancouver Mayor Mike Harcourt as Ivan Ackery Day. Atomic Ack, as he was known, was manager of the Orpheum Theatre from...
Again, congratulations, the Rouse House, Mission House in Vancouver. Thank you so much. And now on with the show, here's Ivan Ackery.
October 30th, 1985 was proclaimed by Vancouver Mayor Mike Harcourt as Ivan Ackery Day. Atomic Ack, as he was known, was manager of the Orpheum Theatre from 1935 to 1970 and was recognized all over North America for his original publicity stunts and movie promotions. In his book 50 Years on Theatre Row, Ivan Ackery tells how the stars of those movies swarmed to Vancouver and how many of them became his pals. And Movie Row was a long way from the trenches of World War II, where he fought as a 16-year-old boy, the youngest soldier at Vimy Ridge.
And after the war, I got on the back of the engines. I went and I got a job at Lake Louise as a bellboy. And then I went to Banff, and I got on the back of the engine. And I went to Calgary, and they opened the show there with Wallace Reid and the Love Special. And I was there, and I come back, and I went to the Capitol Theatre as an usher here.
And you came to Vancouver, to the
Yes.
Capitol Theatre?
Even when I was an usher, I hit the Capitol Theatre. Old Calvin Winter, he says, I'm going to make you the singing usher. And they say, ladies and gentlemen, here comes Ivan Ackery, the singing usher. I couldn't sing, but I used to go down in front of the organ, I used to sing, baby face, you got that little baby face. I'm looking at the world through rose-colored glasses. And oh boy, they were great days.
When did you start at the Orpheum?
I started the Orpheum in about 1935.
You had usherettes all dressed in fancy uniforms in those days,
My
too.
usherettes, I had 45 usherettes. Juliet worked for me, and that's where she got her start with Del Richards, you know. She always sang a song, there'll always be an England, you know. And that's where she really started. She was a very nice girl. And Yvonne DiCarlo, yes. Used to dance on the stage.
In those days, you had to promote movies.
I had phone calls from Hollywood knowing that the stars were coming up here, and they didn't know anybody, so they got me to introduce them to the press.
You met Marilyn Monroe?
She took me out to supper at the Vancouver Hotel. She was a very nice person. She was quite young, and so was I.
I get the impression you were a bit of a ladies' man.
Oh, me a ladies' man? Nothing doing. No, I never got married.
And you had a lot of fun.
I enjoyed everything.
Were you sorry you never got married?
I don't know. It was a kind of loneliness that, you know, I didn't get along that way.
That's why you worked all the time.
Yeah, that's the reason I worked all the time. I was manager of the Dominion Theatre, the Strand Theatre, the Capitol Theatre Calgary, the Victoria Road Theatre, and the Orpheum Theatre. 7 theatres I worked in, which I enjoyed my life so much, thank the Lord.
When you think of the Vancouver Hotel's panorama roof, you can't help also thinking of Vancouver's King of Swing, Dal Richards. Dal's association with the roof lasted for 25 years. First in the early 40s with Canada's Pet Juliet, Dal and his orchestra played the roof when it truly was the top of the town. And later with his wife, singer Lorraine McAllister, who worked with him for 20 years back in the days when swing was king and couples danced cheek to cheek. When swing faded, Dal studied hotel management at BCIT, then worked at both the Georgia and the Devonshire hotels. These days, he's executive director of the Variety Club, but still finds time for his first love, playing music.
When I was a kid at McGee High School, I used to go down and watch live stage shows in the Orpheum, and I think when those curtains parted, and Earl Hill's orchestra, who was there at the time, started playing, I thought, if that could be my life, that would be it. That's what I'd like. At quite an early age, right after high school, right after McGee High School, I went into the Palomar, which old supper club around Vancouver. It was a ballroom at the time I first performed there. I was a member of a band by the name of, I worked with a band leader by the name of Sandy DeSantis for a few years, who was eventually the owner of the Palomar, and then I had my own band in there for a while. And that was a pretty good living for a kid. I was only 19, and went in the Hotel Vancouver after that, and was there for a great number of years.
And you did a radio show, didn't you, from the Panorama Roof as well? It went all across Canada.
Yes, and I used to have the CBC announcers come upstairs, as we called it, from the studios on the first floor of the Hotel Vancouver. And on Saturday night, they would say it's music by the band at the top of the town from the Panorama Roof, high atop the Hotel Vancouver, overlooking the twinkling harbor lights of Canada's gateway to the Pacific. The CBC is pleased to present the music of Dal Richards and his orchestra, featuring the piano stylings of Bud Henderson and the vocal stylings of lovely Lorraine McAllister.
But until the day that one comes along, I'll string along with you.
How did you meet her, by the way?
Well, because of the business. I was in need of a vocalist about 1950, I think it was, and Lorraine had been performing in Toronto and Montreal, first of all with Maynard Ferguson's orchestra in Montreal, and then in Toronto with Art Hallman, and I think she wanted to change from the East and came to Vancouver, and I was in need of a vocalist, so that was the beginning of our association, and I think that was 1950, 1949 in there. It'd have to be, because Dallas was born in 1951, our daughter, and that was an event that you know about, because you and she worked in the CBC at one point.
That's right. So she sang with you from 49 or 50 until...
Well, Lorraine died 3.5 years ago, so she was more or less active until that time.
All those years.
But she sang with us all during those years, at the, many of those years at the Roof, through the 50s and the 60s, and many people have very fond memories of Lorraine as being an integral part of the Roof, and certainly as an integral part of our performance.
What do I care if icicles form? I've got my love to keep me warm.
Fortune magazine a couple of issues ago devoted its entire issue to lifestyles, our lifestyles in the 90s, and they listed consumer products of all sorts, like clothing and how many divorces, how many children, what will we be drinking, what will we be eating, and one of the listings was music, and it had three columns in this page, and one was 1970s when rock was a thing, and 1980s when disco was popular, latter 80s when it was nostalgia rock, which we've talked about earlier, meaning the 25-year-old rock, which are memories to the 40-year-old. And 1990s was identified as big band, so what have I got, 23 months to go.
Dal's successful albums have landed him a gig at the Hong Kong Hyatt next Christmas, and Ivan, well, he still loves to talk about the old days and remember every detail.